Hello and welcome to Property Information Evening. So my name is Slesh Chen. I'm a chartered accountant in public practice, and today we'll be talking for about 1.5 to 2 hours, depending on the feedback we get from you guys. So format of the day, it's pretty casual, and we'll give you live examples of our property investing strategies that we follow. So things we've done in the past and what are we doing now and all of that. And we'll try our best to make the next couple of hours entertaining for you. So as mentioned earlier, I'm a chartered accountant in public practice, so I've been doing that for a while. I'm also an active property investor. I buy and hold, so this is where you buy and rent properties. I do cash flow investing, so this is where I'll chase properties that have surplus cash. And we do land banking assets as well. So this is what houses with massive land or commercial properties with big land as well. And I also invest funds into trading activities where you buy, do up, and sell houses as well. So we'll show you examples in a sec. I'm a partner here at GRA. I have just over 16 years of experience in accounting and property investing. So there's business accounting, property accounting, and property investing as well. Currently, in our whole portfolio, we have over 50, and all these assets are pretty much generating cash flow positive, and they are land banking assets. So if we decided to subdivide these properties, I'll probably end up with 300 sections to build on, and this is the advantage of buying properties over time and banking with land. So that's quite important. And I'll show you later in our examples or presentation what we do. Now, before I proceed any further, I just want to make sure that everyone understands I'm not a financial advisor. I'm a chartered accountant in public practice, and that's what I do. So I'll give you about 5 seconds to read that. And if you've got questions about any of this, please email us. So a little bit of background about GRA and who we are. So if you don't know about us, so we call Gilligan Rowan Associates. In short, we call GRA. We specialize in property and business accounting. So basically, we look after mum and dad investors who have run businesses and invest their money into properties. So, or mum and dad investors who actually have a job and they're investing their money into properties as well. So that's our biggest attraction. We attract those kind of investors or client base, and we've been doing this for a while. And we also do asset protection. So basically, one of the things we ensure with our clients is their family home is always protected, and then the business is protected as well. So maybe we'll look at putting a family home into a family trust, and the business is owned by a holding trust. We also give you insolvency advice and help you through insolvency process. This is where you're not able to pay your creditors, or IRD will help you negotiate and get into a settlement. And we do that. And if it means you have to go through liquidation, we'll help you through the process, help in appointing a liquidator and all of that. We give you specific tax advice based on your structures and tax planning. So we look at ways to minimize your tax. And we always are quite creative in finding new ways to make sure that our tax is always minimized. Now, obviously, with the new government coming in, hopefully soon, we'll know what the new tax rules are, and we can do a presentation on that. We also incorporate trust and provide professional trustee services. Now, professional trustee services are basically single parents wanting a professional trustee will be there, or mum and dad, kids are too young, they want a professional trustee, will be there as well. So we do offer that service to a client base. And we also offer property investment and education school. So currently we've got property school, and that's one of our schools, and we've got property development school. And I'll talk about this later in the presentation. I've also got two of my good friends joining in today. So Maggie and Then, they are property coaches. They're quite smart. So you can see Then on the screen, and Maggie's just gone into hiding for a little bit. You can say hello, Then.
Hello, guys.
And they're really good friends of mine as well. So probably Then and Maggie, I probably talk to Then 7 or 8 times a day.
Probably more.
He's on my hot call line. I was emailing him at midnight, and finally Then was replying back, which is good. And Maggie as well. So Maggie helps us make big decisions, and currently Maggie is helping us get a resource consent for 89 units, which is what I'm not going to build because I don't know how to build apartments. So I'm just trying to get a resource consent. So yeah, both Maggie and Then are very clever. They're property coaches as well. So if you ever get a chance to say hello to them, feel free to pick their brains. They definitely know what they're doing. So a quick market update, what we are seeing out there, because we are at auctions every day. We see what's happening out there. So discounted properties are harder to find now, and one of the reasons is because we've come out of the bottom. So if you still think we're at the bottom of the market, that's not true. We are out of it. So this is why discounted properties are hard to find, but that doesn't mean you cannot negotiate a good deal. So if you see a good property that you really want to buy, it's a double income or 3 lots of income, big land, you can really negotiate the transaction well if you're a cashed up buyer. And even if you're not cashed up buyer, you can negotiate with easier terms. So I still think there's massive opportunities, and we'll show you properties we've bought recently, like in the last 4 weeks. We'll show you what they are. Some of the other things we're noticing is there's strong demand for housing. Now, that's in Auckland and out of Auckland as well. So, for example, if you've got a vacant house, 3-bedroom, you put a ad out, you probably end up getting 40 or 50 applicants. This is how bad the demand is, and that's within a day. If the property is listed out for a week, you probably get a couple of thousand applicants. Massive demand in social housing as well. What I've heard is happening in the social housing side is tenants are now being told, or tenants are going to be moved from motels into houses. Now, I don't think that's an overnight fix. It's going to take a couple of years to do that, but there'll be massive demand for social housing as well. One of the other things we've noticed is there's massive shortage of rental properties in Auckland, and one of the main reasons was the flooding we had in Auckland. There's quite a bit of houses were lost. A lot of families have moved into Auckland from overseas, so that's just putting massive demand for houses. And something I've noticed lately is people prefer lock up and live in Auckland. They just want to buy a 3-bedroom or 4-bedroom house, park the car, go inside the house, and then play on their iPad and get in the car and leave. Pretty much that's what I'm seeing in the market, and I think that's a trend worldwide. And in fact, I actually think the shortage of housing is a worldwide trend now, except probably for China. China's got surplus of housing. But I've been talking to my mates in India. They're telling me same problem, shortage of housing. I've been talking to my mates in Fiji. They've been telling me there's massive shortage of housing. Aussie, same problem. NZ has the same problem. So I think the housing crisis is going to stay here for years to come. It's not going to be resolved overnight. And something that I found recently, if you Google 1938 housing market, NZ, it's the same story they're telling you that I'm talking about today. The housing problem hasn't been resolved. So it's been a problem over the last 100 years. It's going to be a problem for the next 100 years as well. Demand versus supply. So it's in favor of investors. So investors are somewhat lucky with one of the factors here, that there's massive demand for housing. The supply is not there, but investors do face increased interest rates, increased rates, that's the council rates and insurance rates and all of that. They're increasing aggressively, and your repairs and maintenance are not cheap. So as a property investor, and if you are a property investor listening to me, you have to put your rent up. Doesn't matter even if your property is freehold. You have to put your rent up because the market rent is through the roof. I still get clients telling me they're renting their 3-bedroom house in Auckland for $500 a week. You can get $750, maybe $800. So put your rent up because your cost has gone up. Not for you to make money, because your cost has gone up and you need to recover that cost. And with interest non-deductibility, that's another cost that's added on. I'm going to show you some of my latest deals. This is the ones we've done probably in the last 4 weeks. So Then and I recently bought a trade property in Auckland. This is right near borderline of Avondale and Newlyn, so people in Auckland would know this area. So we bought it for $526,000. This is unbelievable. You can't buy houses for $526,000 in Auckland, right? Just being at the right place at the right time. And Then was the one who was chasing the stock. And we got a renovation cost of about 120 grand. We're going to redo all the windows. We're going to make the house really nice. Because we are chasing first-time buyers on this. The market value is around 825 to 875. So we're looking at a profit of between 100 to 147K. That's what we're looking at. And we do like picking deals like this because it takes 3 months to turn this around and sell it. So it's not a bad payday. If you say even if you made 100, it's 33,000 a month you make till the property's ready. So this is some of the things we're doing. Now, what we've noticed in the market is the demand for Auckland trade properties is through the roof. Massive demand for this kind of houses. So if you've got do-ups coming up, you'll see traders are back in action now buying houses. This is the inside of the property. So this is where Then was hanging out, and this, this is where we find him. It's a bit of inside, and the reason we're showing you these photos is what we want to show you is once the property is done up. So this is what it looks like now, and you can see Then on the side there working very hard cleaning, and all of that. And this is the inside. So I made sure Then left the toilet alone because we don't want the boys to be going around and using the neighbor's toilet. So we all regutting this. We're gonna re-jib it and put new windows in. Everything is gonna be brand new. And we're out there negotiating with our suppliers because we said to our suppliers very clearly, if we don't make money, we're not gonna keep trading. So they've all are pricing us well and saying, yep, no worries. Now this is another property we've done this month as well. We purchased it for 1.3 million in Henderson. We're going to spend about 20 grand renovating the property. So our total cost is 1.32. So you can see a big driveway, 1,000 square meters of land. And we're doing, there's currently 2 dwellings and it's subdividable. So we can subdivide this 2 sites as well. We're doing a social housing list. So we rented this property for 2,500 per week. So this is rented out. This house is for special need tenants. So it's been especially bought for them as well. So this is some of the stuff we're doing at the moment, and I just wanted to show you how busy we are. And I think a lot of people are sitting there going like, well, the property market's going to crash, or this is what's going to happen. Well, the thing is, you want to get on the property cycle when it's at the bottom of the market and coming out. We, on top of this, are probably losing 15 to 20 auctions a week. So I think last week we put 15 offers out. I wanted all of them. So we didn't pick up any. Just to show you how busy the market is. Then has been at auctions, and we've been losing auction all year. So the market's shifting, and it's going to go up because cost of building is through the roof, right? Land prices are stabilizing, but the cost of building is not cheap. So going forward, house prices are going to go up, rent has to go up, and rent will follow as well. This is another Auckland development site we're doing at the moment. We've bought it this month, and we're building 3 houses on it. We actually started work, I think this week, wasn't it then?
Yeah, we're starting this week. The power got disconnected. The demolition is due to start the end of this week, and drainage first week of December.
Yeah, and so hi Maggie, and
Hello.
and we're doing land and subdivision here. So it's 1.8 million is the land price, and we're building cost is about $2 million. So our total cost is 3.8 million. Our market value is between 4.8 to 5 million. So we're looking at pre-tax profit of 1.2 million. Now, those houses will be ready by next November. They'll probably be sold by next November, isn't it then?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll be up and running and sold by November. So that's 12 months to do a project like this, and you're banking 1 to 1.2 million profit. Now, and Then's the project manager. He keeps an eye on it, making sure we all the boys are working and delivering. But this is the kind of stuff we're chasing now. And what I want to say to you, we don't do this alone. We got JV partners. There's no point taking all the risk in alone. You do it with your mates, and it actually becomes more fun. So this is what we wanted to show you. This is what we're doing. So we don't just talk. We actually walk the talk. So why do we want property investing? What is it about property investing that gets us going? Now I personally believe the reason we are here today is because we want financial freedom. We want to basically retire happily and not depend on a job, and we want to ensure we live off our passive income, right? Which we're going to show you an example of passive income shortly. And that's from our investments, and spend more time with our family and friends. And let me know if any of this is incorrect. If you say, no, that's not why I'm listening to you. So basically, to get you thinking about retirement and things like that, you need to ask yourself, how much do you need? What do you need? So for example, our Auckland mum and dad, that's quite an expensive lifestyle if you're living in Auckland. You probably need a $2 million home. That's in a decent area. There's probably your starting price, maybe 2.5 million, right? So that's your starting price. And then you need 2 cars. So that's probably 100 grand. So there goes your 2.1 million. And then you probably need 100 grand as a buffer. And you probably need a batch as well. So that's probably 1.5 million. So your lifestyle asset could be 4 or 5 million starting off, This is for Auckland family. And then if you're sending kids to private school, add another 50,000 a year, to that quite easily. And some of that. So this is what we want you to think about. How much do you need to retire on? Some of you might say, no, we don't want a batch. I don't personally want a batch because I'd never use it. Probably Then would still the keen use it. you know,
I'll
and
I'll let you buy one and I'll use it.
well, it's funny. I've got so many mates with Batch, and they all are complaining that I'm not using it because I find it easier to go and just rent a place for $500 a night and walk away, you know, and I also get to try a different location, which is important, and I like that too. You know, and then you go, how long before you retire? So, you know, maybe you're 30-year-old, you got another 35 years of work, or you're 25 years, or you're 40, 45, you know, and I personally believe it only takes 10 years to create yourself a good portfolio. Now, it's taken me 10 years, it's taken 10 years, and Maggie 10 years to create our portfolios, and we're going to show you examples of how we've done it. And then you also ask, well, what assets do you have? So chances you could probably have a good family home with a lot of equity. We can refinance and use that to buy other properties, you know, and this is where we meet with you and discuss all that. What debt do you have? So the chances that your debt is paid off, or your debt might be too high. So we might say to you, hey guys, you need to pay off your debt. You know, stop doing your impulse buying and start focusing on debt reduction. And do you have enough? Maybe you do have enough money. It's just you need to, you know, rejig a few things and things will come right. So those are some of the things I want you to think about, you know, to set yourself financially. What are you after? What's your end game and all of that? So let's say, like, here's some examples. Let's say you're 45 years old and you're going to go say, well, fine, I'm going to just stick to KiwiSaver. Fair call. If that's what you want to do. Your target is to save $2 million, and that's in 20 years, right? So you need to save $100,000 a year. So basically, you need to earn 250K. If you earn 250,000, your PAY is 74,000, your living expense is 76,000, you end up with 100,000 savings. Now, I can tell you this now. I got a lot of friends and, you know, who earn 250 or more, you know, and what you earn is what you spend. As simple as that, your life changes. If you go and say, I'm going to save for 3 years, right, and I'm going to save 300 grand, at the end of 3 years, you're going to go and buy yourself a car. You're going to go on a worldwide holiday because you feel sorry for yourself and there's money in the bank account. And that's just human nature, and I've done it. I've done exactly that. I remember when I was in my early 20s, 24 years old, I ended up with 450,000 in my bank account. Never in my life saw 450 grand. Maybe 26, you know. First thing I did, went to the car yard next day. I bought 2 cars, not one. I bought 2 cars. Because I've never seen 450 grand in my life, you know. And
you couldn't decide which one to get.
Well, no, I just thought I'm buying a car for myself. So it's growing up, one of the things I wanted was a ute. So I bought this ute and I put every single spec you could imagine on paper on it, and I got it done. And so there was a ute, and then I said, actually, God said maybe I should buy my wife a car. She didn't need one, so I bought a car as well. Right. So just because I've never seen 450 grand, I've done it. Same thing as humans. You save some money, you're gonna blow it because you start feeling sorry for yourself. You go, oh, you know, I'm gonna spend it on myself. But whereas if that 450 was left in the property which I sold, I could have had that property went tripled in value. You know, so that just shows what happens. And if you do property investment, you know, you have options in your life as well. And if you do property investing correctly, you actually make money. So buying for less than the real market value, we just showed you an example of that Avondale/Newland property that Then bought for 526,000. Instantly, we've made our money because Then has bought it well. You know, I don't like saying this all the time because Then gets quite upset because it doesn't deliver. and then if you keep properties for long term, you actually gain capital gain, which is not taxable if you keep it for as long as you can. And if you can rent or lease, and you get rental income as well. So, you know, one of the things that I know is happening now, people are buying bigger homes, like 6 or 7 bedroom houses, and they're renting them by the room. They're getting $400 to $500 per room because there's so much need for housing at the moment. So I know there's a massive demand for big houses in Auckland now, basically converting to boarding house, but not saying it's a boarding house. Nothing wrong with that strategy. If you can make it work, you know, 7 bedrooms, say earning $300 a week, it's $2,100 in your pocket. Let's say 700 is your OPEX, you're still ahead of the game. You're still 1,400 better off. And if you do improvement, repairs, renovation, you actually add more value, you know. So we always do that. We always like to buy properties, do it up, and revalue so we can refinance and get your money out. So basically, you got passive income and you got active income as well. So we'll show you examples of what passive and active are. So basically, passive investment is about buying for long-term purposes. So where you buy properties and you rely on your rental income, and that's what you're doing. So once you have enough, you don't have to go to work. And I did passive investment a lot. So I'm 39 now. When I was 30 years old, I could have actually retired back then because that's how big my passive income was. And you can get a good property up and running investment portfolio in 7 to 10 years. That's the second time I've said that. And the reason I keep repeating that is if you buy properties correctly, and trust me, if you do it correctly, it's only 7 to 10 years and you've got surplus money coming in. And also you've got long-term quality investment that leads to wealth creation as well, and intergenerational wealth, which is quite important. So not only that you're creating wealth for yourself, you're passing it down to your kids and your grandkids. And that we believe in long term. We don't want you to just hand the money over to your kids. You've got to teach them how to work for their money. But that's intergenerational wealth, which helps your family members as well. So this is the beauty of passive investing. Passive investing means long-term thinking. Now, whatever you do, do not give up your job and just start buying properties. When you do passive investing, you must have cash flow. So you must have a job on the side to fund your normal expenses while you're growing your portfolio. And after 7 to 10 years, then that's when you can look at retiring. So here's an example of a property we bought that's passive return, land banking as well. So we paid $707,000 for this property in South Auckland. Our renovation cost was basically subdivision and doing little bits and pieces, and our settlement cost was $2,000. Total cost was $749. We revalued the property at 1.1. It had an instant equity of $351,000. Now, that's a lot of money, $351,000. For you to end up with $351,000 in your hand, you've got to literally earn $700,000, pay your income tax and GST. So making an equity of $351,000 is equivalent to someone earning $700,000, nearly. So that's a 32% equity we've gained. We refinanced, took our money out and bought another property. But here's the numbers on it. Currently, it's probably rented for about $1,200 a week. So we'll go with the numbers we have, $1,110 per week. We get $57,000 a year, and we got insurance to pay, rates. We got no management fee because our house is rented to a social housing provider, and our repairs and maintenance are minimal, about $1,500 a year. So our total OPEX is $7,500. We were lucky because we fixed our mortgage back then at 2.5%, but obviously the mortgage rates are bigger now or higher now. So we're paying $13,000 a year. We are 37,000 cash flow positive. All that surplus cash that's coming in, we're using the money to pay off our debt as fast as we can. That's what we're doing now. So we probably got good 3 years or 2.5 years left before we obviously go on the new interest rates. That's what we're going to see in the market. So this is cash flow positive. A cash flow positive land banking, because we got 2 houses, a rear house and a front house, and it's nearly 700 meters squared land. So this is the kind of assets when you see you want to chase it, and you should buy it because you'll always do well out of them. Active investment is basically you buy do-up properties like the one we showed you in Avondale/New Lynn, where we buy the properties, do it up, and we sell it for profit because you're constantly doing that. You're buying, doing up, and selling houses. And you fix issues like if there's unconsented work. We had some unconsented work on this property, wasn't it then?
Yeah, we have some. So didn't have final CCC sign off, but that's what we knew when we took on the property and going through that right now.
But as a result of that, we got a good discount, we probably got 100 or 150 off if it had CCC on it. And also we do reclad leaky houses. Be careful with that. It's not the easiest project to do. And so be careful if you're looking at doing a reclad home. Basically, you got to buy the property for land value because once you open up the house, you don't know what the cost is to fix it. So be careful with doing that. We also rebuild rundown houses or we build new houses. So basically, demolish the current house, build new houses and on-sell them for profits. And profits from our active investing is actually going in, reducing our debt on our whole portfolios or increasing income for us, which we use that income for finance purposes as well. So basically, any profit that comes in, we actually reduce our debt level. Now, Than's going to talk about his property coaching and what it does. and his project management as well. So remember, Than's very smart.
Hi guys, I'm Than Sanders. I'm a property coach here at GRA. An active investor. I'm active in the market, currently buying, as you've seen examples earlier. I help clients with, assessment of properties too. So, for example, a client will say, I'm looking to buy an investment property. Found this, I've got the strategies. Am I paying too much? Does it work within the goals that I'm trying to achieve? Also clients that looking to, increase value by doing renovation, whether this is existing property or they bought something that they need help with. So overall, what I do is, given my experience with what I do, share that with the clients and ensure that, they make the right move. But, my story, started off just like yourself, sitting there watching a webinar, 2015 when I looked at my goals, and I didn't even know anything about property. So my starting point is started where, the viewers are. But most importantly, I didn't buy my first home or as my first property. I got into active trading. So what I'd like to share with you is the trades that I've done in the past that helped me to grow my portfolio. So an example of these property here is this one is in Birchley Life in Goodwood Heights. So as you can see, that's the before and after photo. We bought this property with the intention of renovating it and selling it for a profit. So you can see the before and after photo. One second, it's coming through. So that's the old kitchen, the new kitchen. I mean, we go through a full renovation, making it, good, healthy home standard, livable, that a first home buyer will love. So as you can see, that the renovation, but most importantly, the numbers that's behind it, what we bought it for, and how much we spent, and what we made out of the deal. 824 we bought it for, and sold it for 117 with a profit of 167. The renovation cost there you see is 97,000. The marketing fee is the real estate agent fee. The most important thing that you guys see is that when it comes to trading, you do it in that market. So that 5% for 4 months. So we bought the property, renovated, sold it, and sold it within 4 months. So that payday in 4 months for us. The next project that I want to share with you is what we call a home and income property. So there's basically it's two properties under one title. As you can see, it's broken into the red line. So the front we had a 4-bedroom house, the back we had a 3-bedroom house. So what we've done is simply just separated the title so we could sell those houses individually. So, and this was in Henderson Valley. And so we bought it for 1,370, spent about 50K on just subdividing and a little bit of renovation, with upgrading the hot water cylinder. We sold one of the property off market privately and the one through a real estate agent. That's why you see a 1% agent fee. And all up, it cost us 1.495, but combined sale of the two properties was 1.810. So that made us a profit of 314,000 before tax and GST. Once you take GST out, 267,000, and that was done in a period of 6 months to buying the property, going through the subdivision process, and then selling the property. So these type of deals, what it does is it helps us build capital so that we could reinvest into other projects or to buy other properties that we want to hold for long term. And that's where for myself, active trading was a starting point because I didn't have the fund to buy assets with for long-term goals, and this is what I was doing to create my deposit. But my journey started back in 2015. So, I was a sales rep, working in the freight industry. And for me at that time, my story was, look, I love what I did. And I was thought myself, I'm just going to go through the sales channel and go into senior management. But then all of a sudden, one day, a thought came into me going, what if something happened to me? And I'll get a thank you card, and maybe some chocolate or be replaced. But there's nothing for me to fall back on. And the idea of property is always coming up. And for me, I didn't know where to start. So I attended a webinar and then I also started enrolled into a coaching program because, hey, I needed someone to show me the way. because I didn't know where to start and how to go about it. So attended a seminar for myself. Luckily, I had saved 30,000, sorry, 50,000 of savings and 130K access to a revolving facility from my family. And the first year that I was in the mentoring program, I did one deal. That one deal, I made 65K in profit. For me, having to pay for the mentoring program, but having done the real deal and see the money in the bank, that was the exciting bit because that motivated me to do it better and more frequently. So the next year I'd set my goal of, one every quarter while working full time. That look, I need to just get better at this and get more properties. So one a quarter, which I did, 2016, and that got me a profit of 200K. And then the following year I resigned from my job and then went aggressively into actively trading and looking into property and got more involved in property in overall. So 2015 starting off, and then 2016 is when I actually bought my first, home or home property with an investment. So basically, it's a home and income, like I showed earlier, where I renovated and lived in the front and rented the back. 2017, 18, and the years I've continued to do more deals, and then the money that I had, made from trading, I've reinvested into other properties for long-term holds. And the properties that I look to hold, and these are the examples, as you can see back in 2016, number one is the property that I bought, the original home and income. That's the front property where I renovated, moved in, and rented the back. And then while living there, I've talked to the neighbor as you do, get to know the neighbor, and I planted the seed and said, look, if you're ever thinking of selling, or moving out and wanted to sell this property, come and have a chat to me because I would love to buy your house. It's a wonderful house. And then I never thought anything more were coming out of we've been good neighbors. And then one day she came knocking on the door and said, look, Ben, I'm actually gonna be moving. Would you want to buy this property? And I said, look, what are you willing to offer? Or what do you want? And then she said, look, I don't want to deal with real estate agents. I was like, yes, great, fantastic. You can deal with me. So let's be fair. I think I could get this much. I think this is a fair price. And then we come to an agreement and then we had it under contract and also, yes, subject to valuation. So we bought the second property next door, and then the back, I'm keeping my eye on it because for me, I want to own that piece of land, which gives me further development potential. Number three is another property that I bought as a long-term hold. That once again, it's rented out, it's cash flow positive, and got potential to build three standalone houses there, which I've got plans put in place. And the top was a family home. And the idea of that was also to be a trade, but it was such a nice house, and we renovated and moved into it. And I'll show you numbers or examples of of what I did with my family home as well. Moving on to the next screen, I want to share with you what number one, the first property that I bought, the potential is in there. And this is the reason why I want to buy the rare property the next to the other one, is that this land alone allows me to build 6 houses that gives me passive income for the future. And by buying the next one, I could do the same thing or add more. So that's the goal there for me, is to build dwellings for the future to live off. And with the family home, this is what I've done. The renovation, so bought it for 565, renovated for 185. The new CV is 1.65. The current market value, I could sell it for 1.4. I could sell it, take 250K, but why would I want to do that? It's a nice house. I bank it, and then also it's going to go up in value. Not far away from reaching back to what it used to be back in 2021, the peak of the market. So a couple of years later, we'll be looking at close to CV. So I'm actually sitting on it, and my equity is going to grow, which I could then reuse to buy another property for the future. So now that's pretty much sharing you what property has done for me, the goals that I've set for myself, and for me, I didn't know anything when I started, and sometimes you just gotta get around with the right mind of people and make plans to get yourself ahead. And Maggie, would you like to come on board and share your stories?
Thank you, Then. Yeah, actually make a really good point about getting together with like-minded people, because until you've seen what others have achieved, it's hard to conceive what's possible with property investing, and potentially how quickly you can move forward without taking any undue risk or doing anything crazy or silly. It's once you've seen some examples of good deals that I think it really hones your mind into what's possible, rather than just buying sort of your standard house at market price and getting a bit of rent, and which is still better than buying no house at all, but that you can achieve quite a lot within a shorter time frame than you would imagine if you hadn't seen the examples. But anyway, as you've, I'm sure, all figured out, I work with Than and Celeste. I started in the same way that Than did, attending a course, joining a program, learning from people who are more experienced than myself, and seeing what my peers who are also learning at the same time were doing, and making a really good start with the right advice and the right education in place at the beginning. So I spend a lot of my time at GRA advising people, helping them do their due diligence, working out costs, all those types of things. Yeah, as I was saying, started off getting the right advisors, learning how to do it correctly, how to do investing well, avoiding those mistakes up front that can really slow you down. So I started with a JV partner and a $300,000 revolving credit facility, and that was secured against a house that my JV partner had and had largely paid off. It was just a very ordinary house, nowhere special, wasn't even worth all that much. But with two incomes, we're able to secure a revolving credit facility secured against that house based on the incomes, and I think that was rented at the time, so I guess the rental income factored in as well. But in a period of 8 months, starting in early January through to August 2015, these are all South Auckland properties. We purchased 8 properties. First little unit, there's nothing special about that. I wouldn't have purchased it other than the fact that it came bundled with house number 2, purchased from the same vendor who wanted to sell them to the same purchaser. Avoid fluffing about, and there was really that second property that we wanted. House in a consented granny flat, 540,000. At the time, it was rented to a single tenant paying $585 per week, who was then subletting the granny flat. So well done to that tenant, but the landlord, previous owner, was missing out on additional income. Of course, we promptly changed that around once we're able to. May 2015, so a few months later, purchased a house and a consented sleep out. So next to to the side of the garage there, the big green garage door is a little person door that you walk in, and there were 2 correctly consented bedrooms and a bathroom alongside the double garage space. A few months later, in August, purchased another house and sleep out. That one probably looks like a house and granny flat to you, and it was almost. It had no cooking facilities in it, and a kitchen sink that had been added without building consent. So the rent's a bit lower on that one because the previous owner had 2 tenants in it, but the second sleep out tenancy wasn't compliant with the Residential Tenancies Act. So we took that property on with the sleep out vacant, and then obviously rearranged it to get more rent as well. But there we are, 4 purchases in 8 months. The income from those, so obviously we've spent a bit of money, done improvements, renovations, repairs and things. So roughly your total cost for those 4 properties sits along the top line. On average, interest rate is sitting at about 5% on most of those properties. On principal and interest, the rental income is paying debt off. So the loan payments just calculated at 5% on the total cost. Principal and interest, current rents that are coming in. So obviously the rents have gone up for various reasons, improvements and ensuring that the properties are rented at current market rents. So your annual rental there. Our costs are fairly low. We manage our own properties, and so those costs are pretty much just insurance and rates. And any repairs, we don't tend to spend too much on repairs because either it's recoverable through insurance if it's been through some incident or through tenant damage. and because we've sort of fixed up a lot of things, there's not too much maintenance that actually comes out of the pocket, out of the income, I should say. So 3 of those properties making a nice surplus, and the 4th one not so great. But overall, still a cash flow positive portfolio. So then the 300,000 revolving credit facility was able to be repaid. So that means got that little portfolio with no actual money or equity left in it. So whether we'd use cash to get started or whether you'd use the equity via a revolving credit facility, that's all was able to be repaid. So it's self-supporting, no personal money in it. So basically acquired for $0. But effort, obviously. The income's covering all the costs, and there's even sufficient income to pay for upgrades, healthy home upgrades, or just general upgrades to the property, a repaint, a new kitchen now and then, that sort of thing. And we're able to use that portfolio to keep growing. So an 8-year snapshot, since it's now been 8 years since we started. On the left there, the very first property that revolving credit facility was secured against, it's got the little grey circle against it, 2015, the 4 properties that I just ran through quickly that were purchased that year don't move particularly quickly because it's another 2 years before another property was purchased. So 2 houses on 1 title in the green. Again, 2 years later, a property with 3 dwellings on it was purchased in 2021. Number 4 purchase in 2015, the one that didn't pay for itself. We sold that and sold the very original house, which then meant that the most recent purchase with 3 dwellings on it was loan free, as was that little 2-bedroom unit. And right at the end of 21, purchased a home. So nice big home on plenty of land and combined home with land banking. So now roughly it's a 5.5 million or so portfolio, and that includes properties in there that have got development potential, plus a home and land around that that we're in the process of developing on and can add rentals to in due course. Yeah, so starting with renting with flatmates to having a home and portfolio, including land banking potential in there over an 8-year period.
That's awesome, Maggie. Is Flatmates coming back or not?
Well, it depends if the interest rates keep going up. These must.
We got Salish to join us with the stories. Or is he hiding? Oh, is he just trying to get control? Oh, there he is.
Sorry, guys. I just had a call from the government. It was actually a phone call from the social housing providers just now.
Oh, I thought you're getting the announcement ahead of how the Parliament is coming along.
Well,
inside track into who's going to be Deputy PM.
Well, he just rang me to say we need more houses. You need to get on just now. I just got off the phone, and then, so that's what he rang me about. So, which is what I'm going to explain next. What I've been up to and what I've been doing. Just a quick background and things how I got ahead in my life. So I started work here at GRA in 2007. So I was a graduate, pretty much broke, came in here looking for a job, and I had to do data entry and GST returns. So this is where basically back then you didn't have a software. Clients walked in with the shoebox and all of that. And if I can swing my camera on the side, I've still got my calculator here from 2007 and I still use it to date. This is the one that makes that noise, when you type in.
The one that's got the roll of paper on it.
Yes, it's still here because I was trained as an accountant using that. And it's so hard to get it out of my system. So I probably was the last lot that got trained with that particular calculator. And what happens is when you put numbers, you hear numbers and you can picture the numbers in your head. What's it going through? It's weird. It's a weird thing. That's why I cannot practice accounting without the calculator. So we were pretty broke, I was pretty broke back then. I had about 47 grand worth of debt, and I exactly know what the breakdown was. 30 grand in student loan. I borrowed 16 grand to buy a black Ford Falcon, right? Because I live out west, so it was cool to drive around in a black Ford Falcon. And then I had to borrow $1,000 to buy Meg wheels. That's how my 47 grand was built up. I remember that day so clearly in my head, and so that was my starting point with 47 grand worth of debt. And today I grow my portfolio at $50,000 per month. That's what I'm growing. That's minimum. I actually grow my portfolio bigger than that because Then and Maggie are involved in my portfolio and they understand, just one of the developments that we're finishing, we'll show you an example, like what the margins are not on all of that. So I have a target of growing the portfolio by 50 grand a month, and which then allows me to do other things within the property cycle. I can do other things as well. And funnily enough, I was telling Then earlier before the presentation, I went for a banking meeting today, and I saw two bankers and showed them what we did. They're so proud that they're happy to fund us into doing what we're doing going forward, and that's quite good because if you can fund your projects, you can move forward. So here's what's happened. 2007, graduate, pretty broke, 47 grand debt. 2010, I bought my first property, right? And the reason I bought my first property in 2010, because I was sitting on my desk. I remember that day, I was 26 years old, and I was thinking to myself, where do I want to be when I turn 36? Now, remember, I'm 39 now. I said to my head, well, I want to own 10 properties paid off. That's what I want to achieve by the time I turn 36. And then I realized what was holding me back from doing it now. Like right now, how can I buy more properties? Right? That's the question that came in my head. It was just my vision. Go and look for JV partners, come up with the money, look for the properties. And that's what I did. I went out there, I got JV partners involved. So basically together, that's how funding came in. And then I was out there looking for properties. All my weekends, I'll be driving around streets looking for private sign because I wanted to save $40,000, on real estate agents fee and all of that. 40,000 is a lot of money. It was about 10% of the property value. So that's equivalent to saying $1 million property now, you save 100 grand by buying it privately. So that's what I did. So today we have a portfolio of $42 million. In our total portfolio. Actually, I think it's more or less 44 million because I'm not accounting for properties that's about to be ready and sold, which we're going to show you what they are. So we got 42 to $44 million of properties today, and we receive about $35,000 a week in rent. That's our rent roll. So numbers are straight up. None of this are bullshit. I'm pretty straight up with my numbers. Now, I don't have the portfolio. I've seen other portfolios. They are amazing. But this is a portfolio that took me good 7 years to grow, and now it's self-growing. So I'm 13 years into it, and now it's gone to the next level. I was pretty bored last year, walking around doing nothing. So I had to work out what I wanted to do, buy more properties or do what. What's my next plan? But we've decided to build and sell now. That's what my next gig is now. I don't need to buy another hold, in my portfolio. I don't need it. But I'm only buying it if I get special contracts from the government or any of their special requirements. I'll fulfill that. So here's a cash flow investing property. This is in Rotorua. We paid $515,000. All true numbers here. Nothing is made up. So front house, back house, and a little unit under the front house. I spent $35,000 on renovating, so $550. The market value came back at $850. Instant equity was $300. I refinanced, used that to buy more properties. Now the rent I get is $1,300 a week. I get $67,000 a year in rent. These are all true numbers. These are all contracts that's all been signed, and I've been getting this rent. We pay insurance, we pay rates, repairs, and maintenance. After that, that's about $11,000 a year. We end up with $56,000. Now, again, we were lucky to fix this loan, and we did it at 4%. So even if we're 100% get, we're less than 100%. We still get $35,000. What we're doing is using the money to pay off the debt. The debt's getting paid off really fast. But you can see on my right here, well, surely it's on your right as well. You can see probably 1,000 square meter land. This is 1,000 with 2 dwellings and a little unit under the main dwelling. So it's got 3 lots of income. This properties are gold. If I saw 20 of this, I'll still buy them to date. It's just, you can't build them for that kind of price. It's ridiculous. So the rent's amazing. So this is a Rotorua property. So land banking, cash flow positive investing. This is what I chase, and this is what I do. Now, here's an example of a transaction I did in 2010 or 11, somewhere around then. I bought it for $320 in Auckland. So this is Auckland, front house only, Nothing at the back. I spent $290 building the second dwelling and just renovating the front house. So our total cost was $610. The projected market value was $1.6 million. My instant equity was $990,000. I refinanced and I used the money, but now I've repaid it back. Actually, I've just paid this property off fully now. So currently it's rented for $1,500 a week. It's gone up because rent has gone up in Auckland. So I get $1,500 a week rent now, which is about 70 grand a year, roughly. And then my operating expenses about 7.5. I got no more debt on the property. So I bank all the cash. And I'm using the cash from this to pay off my other investment properties. So basically I'm getting $1,500 a week in my hand at the moment. Then OPEX comes up, you can say, take $200 of that, $1,300 a week in my pocket, which just goes off paying off debt on my other properties. Here's another example of land banking we're doing in Rotorua. And the reason I want to show you this is because we've figured this out in the last 3 or 4 years. This is the kind of properties we should be chasing. Now, Rotorua has got MDRS coming in, medium density housing rules. Now, what that means is, and Maggie, you can correct me, we can probably build houses similar to what we're doing in Auckland. 1,000 square meters, we can probably build 8 to 10 units on them. Maggie, is that right? Or
yes, I believe so. In Rotorua, I think that's called Plan Change number 9.
Right. Jeez, that's a bit detailed. Yeah,
but yes, the indicative plans that are coming through from the architects that you're having prepared at the moment are multiple unit developments.
And again, like Maggie said, this is multiple units we're doing. So we got, we bought all the neighboring properties we could find. So we bought the front one, then we bought the neighboring property. Now 2 properties together, that's cost us $1 million to buy, right? And here's our rent. The one in the front is rented for $600 a week. The one in the back is rented for about $700 a week, something like that. It's very, very good rent. And the plan here is to build units and rent them out long term. Either sell some and rent some out. Then we bought this one in Rotorua as well. This is a nice property. This has actually cost us $1 million as well, including renovation. So front house is rented for $500. The rear house is rented for $300 a week. And then the house on the other side is rented for about $700 a week. So we got 3 lots of income. But the thing what I want you to show you is we got cash flow coming in. We got massive land we can build on. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to keep buying the neighboring properties as they come up for sale. We're going to keep buying them. So our current strategies at the moment, and what I want to show you what we've been up to recently as well in the last probably 6 months. So in March 2023, we purchased this property here for $480,000. It cost us 50 grand to renovate. Total cost was $530. It's 2 houses. So 2 houses right next to each other. And it's been given to a social housing provider at $900 a week. So you're buying 1,000 square meter property. I think this is about 800 or 900. And you got 2 units and you're renting for $900 a week. I can't do this kind of numbers anywhere in the country. It's fascinating the numbers you can get up to outside Auckland, And do you agree, Maggie? I mean, you've moved to Masterton. You probably see numbers like this popping around now.
Yeah, the rents are certainly quite high in comparison. To not too far off Auckland, but your properties are a lot cheaper.
Yeah, and the problem is in this kind of areas, people haven't been building since 2007. So now your cost of building is so high. To just build a 3-bedroom house, you're probably looking at $400 to $500 grand. Forget about the land cost. So the existing stock are coming up in price, and that's what's happening now. Like I said, we lost 15 auctions last week. I was in auctions all day on the phone telling the guys what to put in, And here's something what Maggie's been up to, Maggie.
Yeah, so one thing you can do, your houses start looking tired after a while, is go through and do some renovations of the rentals. So that I saw on the left is looking a lot tidier now after a good wash on the outside, but that had fallen into very unappealing sort of interior, and with a $50,000 spend, which has gone through a new interior paint and some other features to bring it up to healthy home standards, but not to the extent of doing whole new bathrooms and kitchens. Just upgrades as they were required. New carpet and new curtains, that's put the rent up from $500 per week to $950 per week. So 47% return on the spend. The other house on the right there, inside it had received quite harsh treatment from tenants that had been in there for a very long time. So did a complete internal refurbishment. It did cost a lot more than $30,000, but there was a substantial insurance payout as well. So overall, it cost $30,000 and rent increase of $250 per week. So periodically, you get to do that to your rental properties.
Yeah, exactly. And Maggie's definitely right here. You've got to do a little bit of work on your property to increase your rent. But in general, if you've been listening to what I said earlier, we're saying anyone that owns rental property should be putting your rent up, because your cost is about to go up quite a bit, which is rates and insurance. So if everyone puts the rent up together, the market rent goes up. That becomes the normal rent in the market. And it's fascinating. I think I'm getting the most rent. I see what other people are charging and I'm going, wow. And they're getting tenants in, right? So here's a development that currently we are doing in Auckland. And Then's the project manager. Then tell us what's happening here.
Yeah, so here we're this is in Blockhouse Bay in Auckland. We're building 2 duplexes, 4 houses. So just to give you a bit of a breakdown on costing, land and subdivision, cost us about 1.5 mil. Development cost is another 1.5. So a total cost is looking at 3 mil. The projected market value, so if we were to sell these properties, we were looking at anywhere between 4.6 to 4.8 million. So pre-tax profit about 1.1 to 1.3. And looking at completion end of this month, and we'll take it to market early next year.
Yeah, and the thing about doing projects like this with business partners is that if it doesn't sell, you just hold on to these properties because you're literally holding out at cost. So I've already been offered a $4,000 a week contract on these houses to be rented out on a 10-year lease, and I've rejected that because this is our new business is to build to sell, and we want to stick to that formula. So that's what it is. And again, 12 months to make 1.1 to 1.3 million, that's a lot of money. It's not a small amount of money. It's a lot of money. So how do you start? So you're listening to Then, Maggie, and I, you must be going, shit, we are confused. And don't worry, you have the right to say that, But here what we do is we set up a plan for you. We basically said to you, well, work out where you are now. That's very important. Work out where you want to be. So you could be like someone like me, 26, going 10 years ahead, where do I want to be? And here's a plan that I'm going to put down, and that's what you work towards. You must have a plan. Where do you want to be? And you write these things down, and if you're a couple, you write this thing down and work it out. If you're single, you work it out where you want to be, like I said, maybe you need to buy something, maybe you need to reduce some of your debt down and things like that. And then get the right knowledge. So what we promote is property school and development school as well. So they're both different courses. And the reason we promote this is to give you ideas and knowledge about property investing. Once you understand property school is where we teach you all the basic about property investing, and we give you a supply chain of people you should be using, right? Basically, there's people in there with probably 50 or 60 years of experience combined. They've been doing properties. So you're getting a lot of knowledge out of property school. And then what you do is you get a strategy put in place. So you have a meeting with us. We set up your structures. Now, structures are very important because if you don't get your structures set up before your finance, you'll get your loan approved in your name. Then you have to put it back into a company. And the banks won't like that because they'll go, well, no, we approved the loan in your name, not in your company. So it's really important your structures in place. And then what happened is because as part of you going to property school, you'll then know what to buy, or you'll get hold of Maggie or Then to help you through the process of buying properties. Now, we've had hundreds and hundreds of clients do this process. They love it. So this is not just a process we've come out and said, here we go. This process actually works. Very structured. We make sure you get the right supply chain behind you. We make sure you can buy the right property, So what we don't want you to do is go out and start buying. You got to have knowledge. You got to understand what you're buying. So one of the knowledge I tell people is to buy around where there's schools, because those properties are always rented out. Try and buy something with big land. Examples of what I've showed you. Also get good advice. So surround yourself with the right kind of people. you know, your property guys, so Then or Maggie, then your accountants, people like us, you know, your lawyers who understand properties and all of that. So make sure the correct setup is in place before you move on. But I suggest you look at property school because that sets you up quite nicely. Feel free to add anything, Maggie or Then.
Yeah,
I
I
just really
mean,
want to emphasize not rushing out to buy a property, because at best you've just bought something that isn't as good as an alternative that you could have been able to buy had you, acquired that knowledge and seen examples of what's possible. But at worst, it can be buying a property that you've been led to believe can be developed, and therefore you've paid a high price for it, only to discover that that's not the case, and suddenly you're looking at a loss, potentially a decent sized loss if you look to sell.
Mm.
So really, you can just waiting a short while, getting that knowledge, getting that good advice, and you can be progressing a lot faster.
Yeah, and once you sign up for property school, it's basically 21 hours long. So, it doesn't mean you have to watch everything in 1 week. You can probably say, okay, I'm going to watch 3 hours a week. So it takes 7 weeks to basically go through. You also get a couple of free stuff in there as well. Like, it's high value content, and you get our Wealth Suite as well to try it out. Wealth Suite is basically a software you can put deals and analyze them. So as part of property school, you learn about Wealth Suite as well. And also, like how Maggie said, you avoid being sold dirt properties, You don't want to buy properties that's got issues. And you become a confident and informed investor. So when the agents and the lawyers are talking or the accountants are talking, you understand what they're talking about. So that's the beauty of property school. So if you are new to property investing, or if you'd like to refresh your knowledge, I suggest you sign up and do property school. Right now, the reason we promote property school is because of the content and the information it has. We do not make money out of selling property school, right? So I just want to make it clear. The only reason promote is we want our clients to understand. And like I said, we've had hundreds and hundreds of clients do it, and they all love it. So property school is our on-demand course, so it's online. You get 12 months access. So what happens is, if you watch it, you don't understand, you can watch it again and again and again. So don't keep watching it, because then you'll get really confused. So ask questions with Maggie and Then if you don't understand, and me, or anyone else at GRA. And if you got questions, you email it to them and we'll answer them if we can. And like we said, you get 7 weeks of wealth access. Now, if you sign up today, one of the other things that I would like to give you, and this is from Then, and blame it on Maggie and Then, you can grab 2 books. So the 2 books there, we've got their Property 101, Tax Structures. You can have it for free. Again, this box here costs us money. The reason we're giving it for free is because if you are going to make an effort to do property school, we want you to have all the knowledge. Right? Look, it might take you 25 hours to go through the videos. Watch it, right? And then you read those books, because you can go up and sign up for different courses, right? And you can spend hours and hours learning. So what we're saying is, we'll give it to you, learn it to your own time, and then do those different courses, as well, if you like them. Now, if you sign up for property school, you get a free initial meeting with us, which is worth 500 plus GST an hour. So like I said before, we started the presentation, I'm 500 plus GST an hour. And now, if you do want to book this course online, you just click one of those. If you click on that, you can't click on that. If you basically go on that website, you'll be able to sign up. Now, if you do end up paying $5.95, we'll send you $100 back. As a special offer, we're doing it for $4.95 today. So you can pick it up for $4.95. So this is what we give you in property school. It's quite informative, as to help you understand. Now, a question for Maggie. Maggie, when you got into properties, right? That's what he's like. What did you spend? Like tell us.
30,000 on a mentoring course that lasted a year.
And when was that, Maggie?
Well, that would have been 2014, 2015. Yeah.
So it's 30,000 back then, right?
Mm-hmm.
Plus, you actually did property school as well. That's where we actually.
Yes, I did. Yeah, not long after I did property school.
Yeah. So Maggie was a student of property school. That's where we found her.
Mm-hmm.
We knew she was special, so we grabbed her straight away.
I'd ordered Property 101, and it was waiting for me at reception when I came in for property school. This was pre-COVID, when you came to the office, and I think I annoyed Matthew because I was in the front row unwrapping my book, rustling, and he was looking very annoyed. And then he saw what was in the package and very pleased that I bought his
Yeah.
book.
I think Matt likes looking at his face. So that's good. And so you've spent what 30,000 plus you came to property school because you wanted to get that extra knowledge. So what you got to understand, guys, is that 21 hours we give you is Matthew's time, Maggie's time, Than's time, my time, and the banker's time. The lawyer's time. It's very informative. The real estate agents are in there as well, so it's very, very informative. Now Than's a little bit special. So Than, how much did you spend on learning about properties?
Knowledge is power, people. So I've spent I've spent close to or just over $100,000 in education and property education.
Yeah. Well, Ten doesn't like say, but I think his IQ is a little bit lower. So
See, you started with compliments, now you're going backwards.
no. The reason when you find out why did Ten pay once and then he did it again, because he wanted to get access to the supply chain, and luckily he did, because that's how we met Ten.
Mm.
And that's how we met Ten, because he did it again, and then he got the supply chain to GRA. And then when we met and then met, we kind of like, basically love on first sight, right? We're like, we're like this guy, and
Match made in heaven.
yeah, and that's how we got going, And look, since then, what Then has done, he's grown his portfolio, he's set himself up. See, the most important thing that most people forget is when you buy a property, your foundation is created. Yes, there's interest costs and all of that, but long-term property does well. So you need to create that foundation to move forward, and that's what all of us here have done, and that's why we're teaching you now. This is property development school. I'll let Maggie explain to you how this works.
While property school does have a module on property development, it's because it's such a broad topic, that module just sort of, I hate to say, but sort of skirts sort of over the top. It tries to give you a broad overview, and there is quite a bit of information in it. But if you really want to consider development, and that can mean building yourself up a portfolio of rental properties, it doesn't necessarily mean developing to sell. There's so much that you need to understand, and at least be familiar with and understand, to make sure that your efforts are successful and that you do well out of it, that we developed development school. So entirely focused on development, goes into a lot more detail. Various specialist presenters come in and talk about it. A quantity surveyor, a very experienced development project manager who's worked on some really big stuff, specialist lenders, architect, so forth. So yeah, all the town planner, various experts in there giving their information. There's a huge amount of content in there, and exceedingly valuable. It's really important to understand what you're doing if you're going to consider doing any sort of development, which is a great way to grow a strong portfolio and get ahead.
So basically, for $750, what Maggie's saying, you get a supply chain of people. Now, what we got to remember is we've spent years and years creating the supply chain, and you get it. Like, again, for $750, we don't make money. It's about sharing our knowledge with our client base. That's all what we're doing here. That's all it's about. Making sure you are guided by the right people. Because if you are doing a development side, I'm not going to check the sewer connection for you or the stormwater. We need a project manager to check it. Even if Maggie checks it, she wants someone else to give you an opinion, on it before you go unconditional on the site. So it's quite important. So that's the important information about property development school. Now, we recommend you don't do property development school if you haven't done property school, because that's quite important. You understand the terminology and all of that before you do property development school. Otherwise, you'll be confused. Basically, it's like attending an exam that you haven't studied for. So you'll be, the words and everything will confuse you. So we suggest do property school and then do property development school. Now, some of you might be smart investors, so you're all up and running. So just do property development school then. But if you're new, don't even go near property development school till you've done property school. So where to from here, right? So what do we do next? Now, this is some of my recommendation and something that I've noticed over the years. Important that you don't turn off your computer and go to bed and do nothing. You need to just act sooner. I say this every year. If you watch me present for the last 4 or 5 years, you need to act sooner. Like, don't use lack of time or fear as an excuse. If you've got time to look at your phone and surf social media, well, you can surf and look for property deals. Simple as that. I've actually deleted all the social media apps out of my phone. If I'm looking at my phone, it has to be productive time. So I no longer go on Facebook. I not interested in someone else's life. All I'm interested in using my time very productively. Because I was surprised with the amount of time you can spend on social media. Draw yourself a timeline with targets. So you might be 45 today. Where do you want to be at 55? Drop that timeline and work towards it. What's the light looking like at the end of the tunnel? You should be able to see that and then draw your affairs accordingly. Surround yourself with the right people. This is quite important. You have to surround yourself with right people, So right accountants, right lawyers who understand property transaction, right coaches like Ben and Maggie, right? Very important, because if you surround yourself with family members who don't do properties investing, they'll always tell you not to do it. They'll have every reason why you shouldn't do it. So, and I'm telling you, I don't want you to give up your job and start buying properties. No, you need to still work and invest in properties. And you've got to invest in the right kind of properties, big land, houses, and things like that. Very important. And think long term when it comes to property investing. So you can't become a multi-millionaire overnight, right? It takes time to grow the portfolio, but it's only 7 to 10 years if you invest correctly. Here's a text message that I received from a client/friend. So this is a guy I met. I'll try not to say his name. About 12, 13 years ago, he came to see me and he had negative $1.5 million equity. And then we started working together and we became really good friends. So he sent me a text last year and he goes, I've been updating my wealth sweep. I'm sitting around $7 million just on property. What he's saying here is sitting on $7 million of equity in properties. Big gains in the last 12 months, probably in the last 6 months. Yep. And this is me replying. Yeah, you should be over $10 million in net worth. You have done well. The reason I said 10 million is because he's not adding his business in there. So, wow, yeah, maybe $10 million doesn't feel like it, but thanks. You've helped a lot. So I appreciate that too, bro. Now, what he means doesn't feel like 10 million, doesn't feel like he's at 10 million is because when you start making millions and you go up by $1 million a year, or you go back by $1 million a year, whichever way you look at it, it doesn't matter. It doesn't change your life because you still eat the same amount of food. You still fly in the same seats and all of that. But what happens is you're creating wealth for intergenerational. You're creating wealth so you can retire. So this is a wealth we basically created in 10, 11 years. And I helped him a lot. I was there with him and making all the decisions. And if you read my last text message, that is our golden rule. We changed nothing from this. I think it's just about sticking to the game plan. Buy properties, pay off debt, buy good assets, land bank, cash flow positive, etc. Now, one of the things I tell my clients, if you can afford to pay off debts, you must pay your debts off. Simple as that. I always have all my mortgages on P&I. I never carry any mortgage on interest only. I don't do that because if I cannot put it on P&I, I just don't go near it. So I must P&I all my mortgage. That's what I do. So I always tell people, if you can afford to pay off your debt, you should. Now, I'm just going to jump off a little bit off topic here. Now, insurance, I'm going to talk probably next couple of minutes on insurance. Remember, I'm not a financial advisor. I just want to make it clear that if you watch my videos again for the last 3-4 years, I've been telling everyone that if you've bought houses over the last 10 or 15 years, or maybe over the last 7 years, you might have bought a 4-bedroom house for 500 grand. That house is probably worth 1.5 million today, but your insurance cover is still at 400 grand. What it means, if something happens to your house, the insurance company will write you a check for 400 grand and say, see you later. Right? So it's very, very important you renew your insurance policies. And in Auckland, a lot of families had to go through this. And all you needed to do was have people telling you, review your house insurance policy. Really important. So I suggest you go and look at that. Make sure you have the right cover because cost of building is through the roof. It's not cheap to build houses.
Exactly. So if you haven't got enough sum insured, you won't be able to replace that house if something happens to it.
Yeah, and like for example, a house that bends down, just to get the house removed and all, they're probably looking at 50 grand.
Mm.
Because if there's asbestos on the property as well, maybe it'll be cheaper. But I'm just saying, could look at 50 grand. So if your insurance payout is 400 grand, 50 goes into clearing the site. Then you got 350 left to build with. There's no way you can build a 3-4 bedroom house for 350.
Mm.
And so you've got to be really careful. So look at that. Now, also, so we use a company called Initio. You can go into their website and put your property details and see what the insurance is. As part of GRA, you get an instant discount. Now, we've also got Risk Direct, which is a insurance company that personalizes on personal insurance. So your health insurance, your life insurance, and all of that. Now, very important, I tell my clients, you must have health insurance. You must have trauma and disability cover. I know life insurance is good as well, but I personally believe those insurances are equally as important. Life insurance is good as well for the family. So if you feel like you're carrying too much debt, then put some life insurance on as well. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. So I just want to make sure that you've got the right insurance in place. Let's say you don't have the right insurance in place, right? What do? Is you go to this guy, riskdirect.co.nz, his name is Steve Monroe, and you ask him, send all your paperwork, and you say to him, I want you to review my insurance and tell me if I've got the right insurance or not. Now, I thought I had the best cover, so I flicked it onto him. And I said, can you review my file? He reviewed it and said to me, mate, do not change your insurance company, first thing. It's good policy. The only cover you don't have is you've got 100,000 non-medicine cover if this cancer is an issue or not non-funded medical bills. He got me to increase my cover to 300,000, which cost me literally nothing to increase it. So I'm just saying, get your insurances in place. Get insurance for your kids. It's cheap. Don't get life insurance on the kids. Get healthcare insurance. That is so important. Trauma and all of that. My son has got eczema, and the insurance company spends about $9,000 a year on him, on his eczema treatment. Right. So, which I can afford that. But look, I've had insurance. It cost me $600 a year to insure my son on health insurance. So I suggest even if you can afford your healthcare and insurance, but most of these professionals look after insurance clients first before they look at private clients. So if you want to be first in the queue, you must go through an insurance company. Like I said, doesn't matter you can afford it, they'll put you last on the list because they attend to insurance clients first. So, recently I had to go for some checkups, and within 5 minutes, I had appointments booked in. I had an eye issue, 5 minutes, I get a call. Insurance, all done. You're coming in at this time. So that's the beauty of personal health insurance. And I recommend everyone to have that, and your family as well. Now, we also do a lot of blogs, and we do a lot of seminar recordings. It's not only me and Maggie and Then all the time. There's other speakers as well, and we do them. So if you do like to follow us, you sign up for GRA letters, and we'll flick them out to you as we go. You can follow us on Facebook and LinkedIn. I'll leave that for you if you want to do that. But yeah, if you want free resources, sign up with GRA. We'll send you free resources out. Now, before we wrap up, I just want to make sure that if you're not a GRA client, you've never been to GRA, you can get a free initial meeting as well. But if you are signing up for Property School, we are going to give you a free initial meeting. You get that, and plus you get 2 free books. You get access to Wealth Suite. In other words, what we're saying is we're giving you about $1,500-$1,600 a package for free if you sign up for Property School. And in our initial meeting, we talk about asset protection, protecting your family home, your businesses, and we look at tax planning as well, ways to minimize your tax bills, and accounting services. So if you're behind with the accounting work, we can help you. If you do want any of those things, or if you've got any questions about tonight, feel free to contact Amy. She will put you in the right place. But like we said, Property School is $4.95 today, special price. If you click on the link and go for it. And Development School, you'll only do it if you're obviously an experienced investor, or you've done Property School and you'd like to do Development School. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to hang around and answer your questions. So feel free to have those questions coming in because we love questions. Maggie, do you want to start with the questions for us?
Yeah, let's get going. Trina says, I get stuck on the numbers. We own 4 properties, but it's taken 15 years as the bank only lends enough for another one after 5 years or so. How do you do this quicker? Heavily mortgaged, of course. So it's 3 rentals and the 4th is a home.
So I think, Trina, you've answered your own question there. you're heavily mortgaged. So what I would be focused on, and if you recall what we were presenting earlier, we're telling you to actually pay off your debt down. You need to sometimes pay off your debt, or maybe sell one of the properties. As simple as that. Sell one of the properties to reduce your mortgage down so you can refinance and get your equity. But if paying mortgage is the easiest solution, I suggest you pay extra towards mortgage repayment.
Potentially they've got to that point where there's 3 rentals and can't get any more because they may not have a very strong yield as well. So I mean, you that can happen when you've bought properties that you thought were good, and it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with them, but they're just not helping you to grow a portfolio because the returns are too low, the yield's too low.
Exactly, and I totally agree. I didn't think of that, Maggie.
You get
Fair
stuck
point.
quickly.
Yeah, so offload. Maybe swap them for another portfolio.
But that's something that we could have a look at in a property meeting if it was something that interested you, Trina.
Actually, Trina, I suggest you probably book Maggie or Than to review that. And that'd be a good one, isn't it, Maggie, for you to sit and analyze.
Because it could be that having a look at those rental properties and even the home as well, there could be some opportunities in there to make the most of them.
Yeah.
Or it'll become obvious that they've got limited potential and perhaps they're better swapped out for something else.
See my phone here now. I've got the bankers ringing in. This is how busy our property business is. We got social housing providers. We got bankers living. No, we never stop.
Jai says he missed the first part where you showed the Newland property. Would that be your one, Salish, at the beginning?
Yeah. So that's the property that we are referring to, that we've just bought as a trade on board of Newland Avondale. So basically it's a trade property, and we are doing it up. We're doing quite a bit. It had some unconsented work, so we got that fixed and we got consented now. And we're doing it up and we're selling it for a profit of between 100 to 150 grand.
Yeah. And there is a recording that will be available in a few days. So you'll be able to review that and watch anything that you've missed. Tim says, would you advise Auckland investment even for investors a few hours away due to the returns?
Well, what did you advise Auckland investments?
Would we advise to buy in Auckland, even if for people who don't live in Auckland? So,
well, to be honest, it depends how much money you have to put towards Auckland properties. But I'm fascinated with a Rotorua market at the moment, or places like Gisborne. 4-bedroom house in Gisborne is $800 a week. It's insane the kind of rent you're getting out of Auckland. So it doesn't mean you have to invest in Auckland. Like I've gone and bought 32 sites in Rotorua, right? There's a reason why I was chasing the sites in Rotorua. So that's what I've done, So I'm just telling you that it's not about Auckland. I mean, for us to do, I'm very careful with what I'm buying in Auckland. I'm not jumping into properties here because your capital requirements are so high. So, Tim, I don't know what your budget is, but you don't have to be in Auckland because the rent is pretty much similar out of Auckland.
Yeah, you can buy good property anywhere. There's certainly certain locations that we advise that you don't invest in. So very specific areas, for example, the west coast of the South Island is one place we say to stay out of. But otherwise you can find good properties throughout the country.
Yep.
And just depends sort of what strategy you want to focus on. And equally, there's not so good properties, including plenty in Auckland. And I guess if you want to be really hands-on and make the most of whatever skills you may have, if you've got building skills or renovation skills, then it probably makes sense to maybe start off within a reasonable travel distance so that you can be hands-on to get started.
Exactly.
You don't have to invest in Auckland to still do really well, basically, do you?
Exactly. Like if you're going to do it in Auckland, you have to make sure you get the right numbers going in the right property. Yeah.
We've all either still are or have been Auckland based, so that's why I've been buying in Auckland because that's where we lived. So, and then you went further afield, Salish, and then still in Auckland.
Yeah.
Vivian says, hi Salish, regarding your recent Henderson $1.3 million purchase, would you mind telling us how many bedrooms are there? How do you achieve 200 $2,500 per week rent. That is too good to be true.
Well, the thing is, and if you listen to my presentation earlier and you've seen my other numbers on some of the properties we have, that's the kind of rent I'm getting, right? It's true numbers, and this has special properties. They're 3+3 bedrooms. These properties are bought for particular disability tenants and all of that, and you supply and you make sure the houses are fit for purpose. So it's not basically bought for any tenant that can come off the road and come and stay there. It's those kind of houses. So there's plenty of this around. So you can you go around looking at contracts or special housing contracts, and if you can find them, you find those houses. So they're specifically bought for that particular tenant.
So it's a specialized
social housing.
Social housing, isn't it?
Yeah. It's specialized. They got no space for them, so you have to buy specialized houses. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Nalan. I own a 632 square metre section of land in Raglan as a land bank. It's a sloping section, so needs earthworks if one was to build on it. My question is, if I just do the earthworks, will it increase the value of the land or just the saleability of it? Is it worthwhile just using the current equity in the land to buy, e.g. a rental apartment?
So basically, under the current banking rules, if you've just got a land with no value, no house on it, the banks value that land quite low. So the chances of them using the equity to buy another property could be slim, right? Depends on what you own and as well. So all goes with that. But I would probably look at selling the land if you don't know how to develop a sloping land, because it's bloody expensive. I'll tell you this now. Right, I'd probably look at selling it, and then if it was me, without looking at obviously how much you earn, because if your earnings are good, you don't need to sell. Simple as that. If you go, well, no, I need to sell to buy an apartment, then I would probably sell the land to buy an apartment. Yes, it sucks because the land prices do go up over time, but sometimes if the banks are not supporting an empty land, then you kind of get rid of it. It's probably not the best time to sell land at the moment.
And not the greatest idea to hold empty land as a land bank because you haven't got any income off a house sitting on it. So you can hold a property with a house on it as a land bank property, and you've got the rental income. I'm assuming this doesn't have a house, as it's just described as a section, but it could have a dwelling on it. But I wouldn't do any earthworks on it, thinking that it's going to increase in value with the intention to sell, because you don't know what somebody is going to plan for that piece of land, and some earthworks that you do may not fit the intentions of the building intentions of the purchaser. Plus, you generally can't just go doing earthworks willy-nilly without all the consents. Again, if that person wanted some specific advice, perhaps we'll be able to help more after having a look at the specific property. Or at least hopefully send you in the right direction. Trina asks, how do you manage, do you manage your own rentals or have others manage?
So for my portfolio, I have social housing. So I've been doing social housing for 13 years now. So I'm very well connected. So they manage the properties. I don't get into managing side of it. However, if there's issues that needs to be resolved, I get involved. But apart from that, I don't want to know the property once I've handed the key over. It's not my problem.
You're not dealing with the tenants or who's moving in or out or any of that.
Yeah.
Or anything. Fan, you've got a property manager, haven't you, for your holds? Is that correct?
Funny, I've got property manager. I've also managed to manage one of my property because I've got a friend living in there. And the one is through social housing, which they look after. So a mixture of everything.
Yeah. I self-manage, but with support from specialist providers. So I do pay for somebody to help find tenants, let the houses, do credit and reference checks and that kind of thing. But day-to-day management, do it myself, organise repairs and things, check rents. A couple of questions from Karen. How do you get interest deductibility?
Okay, basically the way to get interest deductibility is to rent your house to a social housing provider. Has to be a cheap provider. Where do you find them, Maggie?
There is a government register of registered social housing providers, and up into Google, if you put in the letters CHRA register, that should take you to the link.
And also, if you buy a house that's got new CCC, you can get interest deductibility as well. So social housing or new house. So obviously you don't want to just rush out and buy a brand new house for 900 grand to get 600 a week rent. You know, you got to be careful what you're buying, you know, it's a very important. Obviously, if you don't know what you're buying, feel free to make an appointment with Dan and Maggie, and they'll help you make the decision. Now, also don't forget, we got new rules coming out, tax rules. So what we're talking about, the Brightline and all of this could be pushed back. You know, it could all change as well. So let's not rush into just seeing relying on the labor rules. Now we've got the right government in place, so we probably will have new rules to help us decide what to do. But
at worst, it appears that we'd have interest deductibility back in full within 2 or 3 years.
yeah, correct.
Worst case scenario. So these may not be concerns for too much longer.
Yes.
A couple of other ways to get interest deductibility, of course, is if the property, it might not be brand new, but if it's got a new enough code compliance certificate, so perhaps you've been doing some major changes. I think you can reclad a leaky house, and that gives you the right to deduct interest as well.
Relocate, yeah.
Yeah, or you relocate an older property, older house on. And on issue of CCC, you'll also qualify as a new build and get your interest deductibility, or dividing a large house into two. But yeah, as you were saying, Celeste, probably don't need to get too hung up on that, because we should see the tax rules change in favour.
Yeah, and the answer could be everything could be deductible. You know, I know David Seymour was arguing hard, so to get investors all their rights back. So I mean, we just said what Labor did to us, but you know, it's all coming back now. Yeah.
Second question, how can you stack your family home mortgage against your rental mortgage?
Well, you got to be careful. That's it's not an easy question to answer, because there's two ways to look at it. If you had a current account balance in your company, now there's a little bit of accounting we're talking about, you can move some of your personal debt again on your family home to the business and call up your current account balance. That's how we can get some of the deductibility, because a company owing you money through a current account is considered a loan. So you can replace your current account balance with your home loan. Apart from that, any new loan that you stack up against your old rental property is non-deductible. So Labor did make sure they got that in. So it's a very broad question. So we have to look at your affairs to answer that question.
Which is a good area to buy in Rotorua?
Yeah, so I personally like within 10 minutes drive within the city of Rotorua to buy in. Now, the only area I avoid in Rotorua is Fordlands or anything with gang based. Yeah, I'll avoid that.
Joanne asks what our project management fee is.
Depending
depends
on
what you're doing.
Yeah.
But we do help people just based on an hourly rate as well. So yeah, depending on how much time and what's involved, Joanne, that's perhaps something that we could look into project specific.
Yeah. And to be honest, I think you're still better off using Than or Maggie on an hourly rate. And look, if they are struggling with your questions, they will refer you to the right people. They have the supply chain available. Yeah. And Maggie will just call them for you and hook you up to the right person.
And would very much depend what you're perhaps wanting us to do, whether it's to coach you through a certain type of project so that you learn how to do it yourself, or whether you would just like somebody at GRA to look after it for you and you get the finished product at the end, and then that depends whether it's a simple renovation or something else. So feel free to contact us through Amy and tell us what you're after. Right. What proportion of leverage do you recommend on an asset base or portfolio of, say, 10 million?
So I personally believe that if you're at 60% LVR, you're pretty much on borderline being safe with the banks. So I think if you're 60%, and obviously it depends on what kind of assets you have as well. If you've got properties that are obviously generating cash flow positive, you can probably load a little bit more debt up on it. Or you as personally as the shareholder or the director earning good salary, it doesn't matter if you've got highly leveraged because you've got cash flow to control it. But again, like I've always said, you've got to focus on paying off debt. I like debt reduction. I don't like interest only personally because there's a point where the interest only loan finishes and then you're paying quite a big repayments.
Mm.
So, and which can stress a lot of people, So if you can pay P&I, I suggest you do that.
Mm. It could depend very much not only on the on your individual circumstances, how much income you've got, how secure that income is to support the level of debt you have, but perhaps how easily liquidated the property is as well. So if you're in a good location in Auckland, for example, you could, if something happens, you could sell that property pretty easily. If you're in a small town, you may not be able to sell quickly.
Exactly.
It's safer not, to carry less debt then, isn't it?
Yeah.
You talked about joint ventures in the presentation. Do you guys run JVs?
Yeah, basically we do run JVs. Depends on what you want to bring to the table, If you can find properties and you bring it to the table, we're happy to look at it and see what we can do with you. So each JV has its own merits and how we're going to structure it. So it depends, Yeah.
I guess what you're meaning, Salesh, though, is that individually as personal investors, you're happy to enter into JVs with people if it's attractive to you, isn't it? But we don't run a JV dating service, so to speak.
No, definitely no dating service. It's definitely it's yes, if you got something good or you've got mates you're going to JV with and you need paperwork put in place or structures, we do that as well. We can guide you through. It's funny, you don't realize how many people you can JV with. Like, for example, you can JV with your parents, as long as you don't lie to a JV partner, because it's quite upsetting when a JV partner finds out you've been hiding information about a property. Yeah. So very important that the JVs are sorted.
Hi, Salesh. Thanks for the presentation. What do you see as the most viable strategy in this environment, e.g. buy, renovate, or hold them, or buy new builds due to LVRs?
Well, if you can buy, renovate, and hold, that's a good scenario, but that depends on your personal income, right? If you're buying a new build, you make sure you're getting a deal. Right, when I say a deal, there's 10-15% discount in there, which allows you to use some equity to refinance and buy more properties. But buying and renovating, I think it's a good place to start because you can literally create 30-40% equity if you do it properly and you buy it at the right price. Yeah, that's what I'll be focusing on. But I personally don't buy new builds because I build new build houses, so I don't need to buy another developer's stock.
Yeah, there's nothing in it for you if you're buying somebody else's new build, unless for some reason you got it really cheap. Because a new build, downside to buying somebody else's new build is it's not usually available, at a nice discount below market value, and it generally doesn't come with any land, so you don't have opportunity to do something to that property to increase your gain.
Right.
Yeah. Tim says, thanks, we own rentals in Rotorua, Whangarei and Kerikeri, often eyed up Auckland, never brought there though yet.
Right, so Tim owns properties in Rotorua, Whangarei, Kerikeri, and
hasn't yet bought Auckland, but has been thinking about it. I think Tim was asking the question earlier on about, do you have to invest in Auckland if you don't live in there?
Yeah, and to be honest, if you're buying in Rotorua, Whangarei and Kerikeri, I can tell you there's massive housing crisis in those areas because my social housing providers are telling me to buy in those areas as well. So if you already are in that area, then why would you want to reinvent the wheel coming into Auckland? Because I'm telling you, Auckland's expensive. It's not cheap. But for example, you could spend 900 grand on a property in Auckland, but your rent is 650 to 700 per week. You could spend 500,000 in Rotorua or Whangarei and Kerikeri. Your rent is 550 to 600 bucks a week. You know what I mean? So you're and with a big piece of land, right, as well. So I just think that if you're already in there, you're probably getting the cash flow. Yeah. What do you think of that, Maggie?
Definitely, yeah. I'd say the only thing is sort of over a longer
That's it.
time frame. If you've got a long-term view, Auckland's always going to have, well, as much as any of us can say, strong capital growth, which the regions might not always. So,
Yeah.
would you agree, Celeste, that the regions can be a bit more vulnerable to property market changes? And
No, I totally disagree with that now, because what happened was in 2007, it was a big issue, right? And people came to Auckland for jobs. Now there's so many jobs around that people don't have to come to Auckland because the cost of coming to Auckland is so expensive. So, in 2007, everyone left their jobs in towns and moved to Auckland for jobs, right? Now, if they come to Auckland, they're going to start paying $700-800 for a tiny house. So people are not moving into Auckland in numbers. The people coming to Auckland are outsiders now, so we got migration happening, and
people new to New Zealand.
yes,
Yeah, whereas you're right, now we've got the whole remote working thing, so you can take a job in Auckland
Yeah.
without necessarily moving there. You might just be traveling up.
yes. And what you also got to understand is in those areas, they haven't been building houses. This is the problem. We haven't built houses since 2007, and families are growing. So you got people, Auckland is moving into those areas, people from overseas coming into Rotorua for job or whatever, and they're picking up all these houses. So people who are already renting are struggling, Yeah. Yeah. So I think, I personally, if you've got good properties returning good money, big land, hold on to your land because land will go up in price.
Carl says, "Hi guys, I have a 1,000 square meter duplex property in Whanganui. It's currently rented out to 2 tenants. I've been thinking about either building on the back of the section or bringing in a transportable house as a minor dwelling. The duplexes are each 3 bedroom. Thoughts on Whanganui and what I should consider?"
So if I was looking at Wanganui, I would actually say, starting point is what's the cost to buy another property, right? If the cost to buy another property is, let's say, 400-500 grand with a big piece of land, I would probably buy that then instead of doing a relocatable. Your minimum cost is 300 grand if you're relocating, minimum. You know what I mean? And it's a nightmare. I personally hate it, relocating a property. And
Whereas you're
probably,
saying for a similar amount of money, you could have a whole entire other property with a house already.
yeah.
there.
And I've spent 50,000 running this scenario in Rotorua. And then I worked out after spending 50 grand, I'm better off buying
Just
another
buying.
property.
If you get something at a good price.
Yeah, instantly I stopped the work and said, no, it's basically like lighting up a pit and throwing 50,000 in there. That's what I did. The money got bent and that's what it was. So I think you should consider that. Now, if you are keen to do a relocate and go, no, that's exactly what I want to do, and some people do that, I suggest you look at a brand new relocatable. Because you'd be surprised the cost is no difference between a brand new relocatable and a secondhand.
After you've done all the renovations to the secondhand one, you're thinking?
Well, when you buy a brand new, because you get free site travel, so they can bring it to the site for free as part of the deal.
I think that probably depends what company you're buying from, because
Yeah.
some of the transport costs are on top.
Yes, correct. But what happens is because they want to cut a deal with you, because if you buy a second-hand stock, they charge you for transport. So you could just cut a deal with a brand new. I mean, yeah, it could be 30-40 grand you could save. But the advantage of going new build is you got no worries. There's warranties in place and all of that. For a little bit more, you get a brand new house. That's my point. But do your homework. I've done relocatables and I've spent 150 grand renovating on site. So I'm not a big fan of relocatable. Personally, I'm not. But
of the older secondhand stuff that you move on site, yeah.
But last few weeks, I've been actually thinking about it, Maggie, in my head. I'm going, well, if it's costing 500 grand to build a 3-4 bedroom house nowadays, and that's not a relocatable, then maybe it's not a bad idea buying a second-hand home for 50 grand, relocating for 150, that's 200, and spending 100 on rental. It's not a bad idea. So I've been thinking about those things. So you got to do your numbers to really work it out. But if I was in a place like Wanganui, I'd be thinking, well, is it just easier to buy the next door neighbor or a property down the street?
I guess one advantage currently of doing a transportable or building on the section, as Carl's thinking about, is that you've got your interest deductibility at the outset. You don't have to potentially wait for it to get it back, depending on what the new tax rules are going to be.
Right.
And Carl may have various skills that he can use himself. I mean, he could be a builder or a plumber or something, or quite handy and be looking at doing some of the work, which is a factor to consider.
Yes.
As well, if you can put. I know whenever we've run the numbers on doing build on site versus a new transportable, build on site works out better. We haven't. It's something that Matthew's often looked at, and as well, using a new transportable houses. And by the time you put on all the extra costs, it works out better to build on site, so long as you can build on site cost effectively.
Yes.
So
Yes, that's important.
Yeah. So that probably doesn't mean going to one of the big fancy building firms that you're paying for all the TV adverts and show homes and stuff like that, but using a local builder that's going to do it in a more cost-effective fashion.
You also want to make sure the builder's not going to go broke. So
True.
before you make any payment to the builder, make sure you get the producer statements.
Very good, and get very good legal advice over your building contracts before you hand over any money.
And don't do variations because that's expensive.
And then Matthew always says, if you're looking at those old relocatable houses, make sure you're getting them really cheap or free unless they're in really good condition and not too old.
Exactly. And that's why I was saying maybe you do a new one if you don't get a really good one. You don't want an old one because it can just cost you a fortune to fix it.
Okay. Any more questions? That was our last question.
Yes.
Moment. If someone jumps in quickly, we can answer it. So
we're going to wrap up shortly. Sorry, I ran out of oxygen in my room. I had to go and open the door. My air conditioning had died. So if you got any more questions, guys, this is our last presentation for the year. We're happy to hang around for another minute or so and answer those questions, but I know it's 9:00 now, so everyone's probably in bed, tucked away. But guys, think of what we said. You've got a new year coming. Think about 10 years ahead. Don't think about tomorrow or next year. 10 years ahead, and what do you want to get out of this property investing? I personally believe property investing creates wealth, creates cash flow, intergenerational wealth. Things like living cost crisis. That's something that Maggie and Then and I probably don't need to worry about in our life. That's something, that, things like that. So we've set up ourselves accordingly. So, if you want to hang around with people who understand properties and things like that, I suggest you sign up for property school, get the supply chain going, or make an appointment to see Then and Maggie. And for $250 plus GST an hour, it's really cheap. Okay, I pay for advice all the time. And, if Then and Maggie's giving me advice, I get it for free because we're mates. But if I'm going to a town planner, it's, $300-400 an hour. Easy. That's what we're spending on them. So, so anyway, so hopefully that was helpful. And if you do have any questions, feel free to get a hold of Amy. And we either look at seeing a property school or obviously organizing meetings with Then and Maggie and getting into property investment. No worries. Thanks, guys. I'll probably see you next year, Maggie.
Yeah.
See you tomorrow, Salish. As long as you don't call me at midnight. Right.
No worries. I'm gonna go and get on my calls to the bankers and the social housing providers. Look, the social housing crisis is gonna be big. I'm telling you, it's huge. And it's a 100-year problem. It's coming through. When I say social housing, what I want people to remember is social housing doesn't mean bad people. This are mum and dads with kids, they're not bad people. They just have to go in social housing because they can't find houses to live in, So, a family like them, good people. So No, kidding, Fan.
Oh, we are good people.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I
No
don't know.
worries.
Fan's a bit of a rat bag. Parties will be a bit wild in the.
Yeah. Exactly. You don't want him to be a neighbor. Yeah. Thank you, guys. We'll have a good night and we'll see you later.
Yeah, good night.
Good night.
Bye.